Good evening, Wanderer. Tonight we slip past the creaking hulls and flickering lanterns of a forgotten port and step through the warped door of a pirate tavern. Not the kind from children's books, with jaunty songs and harmless scoundrels, but the real thing. The kind soaked in rum, smoke, blood, and secrets. These weren't just places to drink, they were lures, they were traps. Taverns where fortunes were won, lives were lost, and trusting the wrong stranger could land you in chains, or worse, at the bottom of the bay. But within the grime and danger, there's something magnetic, a rough poetry, a chaotic rhythm of survival, betrayal, and fleeting warmth. That's what we're exploring tonight. If you find yourself pulled in by these darker corners of history, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if this is your kind of voyage. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing who's gathered with us under this strange little constellation. Now settle in. The sea is quiet, for now. Let's begin. It begins, as these things often do, with a story, a lie, polished into legend by countless retellings over slurred tongues and candlelit boasts. You've heard it before. Everyone has. The tale of a pirate who stumbled into a nameless tavern and never came out the same. Some say he vanished. Others say he found riches, madness, or both. But most agree he left behind something far worse than what he carried in. The tavern in question doesn't appear on maps. It never has. But sailors speak of it in hushed tones, as if saying the name too loud might summon it. They call it the Siren's mug, a place where the drink is strong, the stories stronger, and the dangers as invisible as they are inevitable. You don't go there on purpose. It finds you. One moment you're walking a familiar dock. The next, fog rolls in, thick as wool, and when it parts, there it is. Crooked walls, a sagging roof, and a flickering lantern above the door that never blows out. Some claim it's built from the hulls of shipwrecks. Others say it was grown from coral and curses. But everyone agrees. Once you step inside, something follows you out. You arrive just after sunset. The sky behind you burns purple and gold, like the sea itself caught fire and took the horizon with it. The tavern stands at the edge of the wharf like a wound that won't heal, leaning slightly to one side as if drunk on its own history. The sign above the door creaks with every gust of wind, depicting a crudely painted mug foaming over with what looks like blood. You hesitate. You should. But the cold has sunk into your bones, and your coin purse is light, and something in the back of your mind whispers that you've already been here before. Inside, the world shifts. It's not just the smell, salt, sweat, smoke, and the faintest trace of something metallic. It's the weight of the air, heavy, thick, as if every breath is borrowed. Shadows dance across warped floorboards. The patrons are louder than you expected, laughing, shouting, singing in keys not recognized by any sea shanty you've ever heard. A man with a tattooed face slams his mug down hard enough to crack the table. A woman with eyes like shipwreck glass grins at you without smiling. The bartender nods without looking up, as if she's been expecting you. She pours something dark into a tin cup and slides it down the bar. You catch it without thinking. The first sip tastes like brine and burnt sugar. The second like memory. By the third, your hands stop shaking. You notice a map carved into the bar's surface. Tiny ports, winding routes, marked with strange symbols and dried stains. Someone once tried to track where the Siren's mug might appear next. You doubt they succeeded. No one here is here by chance, But neither are they here by choice. It's a trap disguised as sanctuary, a confession booth for the damned. You down the rest of your drink and look around. It's already too late. The tavern has you. The fire in the hearth burns low, casting long shadows that crawl across the tavern's warped beams, like skeletal fingers stretching for warmth. You sit still for a while, letting your eyes adjust to the shifting glow. You'd think a place like this would be loud, chaotic, but the noise has a rhythm. It ebbs and flows like the tide. Conversations rise just high enough to keep secrets safe, and the laughter, sharp, sudden, comes with the clink of tankards and the creak of old floorboards. You spot a man in the corner, dressed in tattered naval blues, one epaulette hanging by a thread. His face is pocked with scars and shadows, but his eyes burn like cannon fire. He's staring straight ahead, not blinking, not moving. You follow his gaze and find nothing but a blank wall, nothing except a deep gouge carved into the timber, a name half scratched out. You're not sure what it is that unsettles you, the silence from him or the fact that the wall seems to pulse faintly, like something behind it is breathing. You shake your head, trying to break the spell. The bartender places another drink in front of you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't pay. It's just there, waiting. You take a sip and realize it's stronger than the last. Smokier, sharper. Like someone poured in a memory and set it alight. You glance down the bar and see a woman with sea glass earrings tracing patterns on the countertop with a dagger. She hums an old tune. You know it, or you think you do. It's the kind of melody that buries itself in your chest and uncoils years later in your sleep. The bartender speaks at last. Her voice is low, rough, like barnacles scraping a hull. "First time?" she asks. You nod. "Then let me give you some advice." She leans in close. You smell salt, citrus, and something older. Never ask for directions, never finish a song, and never, ever sit at the captain's table. She jerks her chin to the back of the room. There, tucked in a far alcove, sits a circular table made of black wood, unoccupied, covered in dust. A single chair pulled out like it's been waiting. You ask what happens if someone does. She doesn't answer, just returns to her work, wiping a mug with a cloth that smears more than it cleans. But you notice everyone else glancing toward the table, avoiding eye contact with it like it might notice. You sip your drink again. It's nearly gone. Time feels slippery here, like a tide pulling at your ankles. You look back at the captain's table and wonder who it's waiting for. The fire flickers. Somewhere behind you, a chair creaks. You don't turn around. There's a man near the hearth who seems to be telling a story. His voice rises and falls like the sea, drawing the attention of nearby drinkers and drowning out the crackling of the fire. He's old, older than the tavern, if such a thing were possible. His skin is weathered leather, his beard full of beads and shells, and every line on his face feels like a coastline eroded by storms. You drift closer, caught in his current. "There was a ship once," he says, "called the Widow's Wake, fastest thing on water. But she was cursed, picked up a crew that was already dead." Someone laughs, but he keeps going. Dead eye, but still breathing. And they came here just like us. Thought they were safe. But the mug doesn't like ghosts. A hush falls over the table. You catch eyes with a woman seated beside you. Her hands tremble as she lifts her cup. "What happened to them?" she asks. The old man's smile doesn't touch his eyes. "The tavern made sure they didn't leave twice." No one laughs this time. He leans back, sips his drink, and mutters, and the table waits for their captain still. He gestures toward the black circle in the corner. You don't look, not this time. Instead, you notice something strange. The fire doesn't warm you. It dances and glows, but your fingers remain cold. You hold them out, but the heat doesn't come. The hearth is just for show. Illusion. Decoration. Like a painted sunset on the wall. You retreat back to your seat at the bar, where your cup has refilled itself without your noticing. The bartender isn't there. No one is. The tavern hums, low and slow, like a ship creaking in heavy seas. You take a long drink. It burns. Your vision blurs. When it clears, you're staring at your reflection in the metal of your cup. Only it's not your face. Not exactly. It's older, thinner, a scar on the cheek that shouldn't be there. You blink. It's gone. The drink is empty. The bartender is back. Best not to look too long, she says, as if reading your thoughts. The mug remembers things we try to forget. You nod slowly. Around you, the stories continue. The old man laughs again. The woman hums her lullaby. And you sit there, shivering beside a hearth that doesn't warm, in a place that pretends to be alive. But the longer you stay, the more you suspect it's only pretending. Because the mug is hungry, and stories are just bait. Outside, the wind howls like it's searching for something it lost long ago. You watch it batter the shutters, rattle the beams, and snuff out the lantern hanging from the eaves. No one inside notices, or if they do, they don't react. You're the only one who flinches. That's when you start to wonder, what's holding this place together? The walls are crooked, the roof leaks when it bothers to hold it all, and the boards groan beneath every step like they might give up entirely. But still, the Siren's mug stands. Storms come and go. Waves crash just outside. Yet the tavern persists, untouched. You begin to suspect it's not rooted in timber and stone, but in something else. Memory, maybe. Or debt. A man stumbles through the door then, soaked to the bone and wild-eyed. He looks like he's run through hell's own surf to get here. Hair clinging to his face, lips cracked with salt, hands trembling. He doesn't speak, just throws something on the floor with a clatter. It's a chain, rusted, barnacle-covered, still dripping seawater that steams on the hearthstone. A hush falls over the tavern. Even the laughter stops. Someone mutters a curse in a language you don't recognize. The bartender steps forward, her expression unreadable. She picks up the chain, examines it, then nods. "Put it back in the cellar," she says. Two men rise wordlessly and drag the newcomer away. No one questions it. No one follows. You hear the cellar door creak open, then close again, with a thud that shakes the bottles behind the bar. You ask what that was. The bartender shakes her head. "Old debts," she says. "He tried to leave one unpaid." She slides you another drink before you can ask more. "Drink," she adds. You're still above water. It's meant as comfort. It doesn't work. You sip. The taste is different this time. Metallic. Like rusted iron and old copper. But it goes down easy, warming your chest in a way the hearth never could. Around you, conversation resumes. Slowly, uneasily. But the rhythm returns. The man is gone. Forgotten. You try to do the same. You fail. The wind howls louder, angrier, clawing at the walls like it wants in. You glance toward the window and freeze. There's a face looking back at you. Just for a second. Just a glimpse. Eyes wide, mouth open, screaming. But no sound. Then it's gone. You blink, heart racing, and when you look again, there's nothing but storm and salt-streaked glass. You turn to the bartender, but she's already walking away. You're left with your drink, your heartbeat, and the heavy silence that follows truth too strange to explain. You realize then, this tavern doesn't need locks. It doesn't need guards, because nothing escapes unless it's allowed. And not everything that leaves comes back human. The night thickens like oil, heavy and clinging, pressing in through the warped beams and threadbare walls of the Siren's mug. You've lost count of the hours, maybe even the days. Time drips slow in here, distorted by smoke and drink and stories that circle back on themselves like tangled rope. A man sits down next to you, uninvited. He smells like salt and copper, and his eyes are ringed with red, like he hasn't slept in a season. "Mind if I tell you something?" he asks, though he's already talking. There's a reason this place feels alive. Because it is. She listens. The mug. She hears your lies, your secrets. And if she likes you, she lets you drink them down. If she doesn't, he trails off, grins with too many teeth, and slides a coin across the bar. "Drink up." The bartender eyes the coin without touching it. It's not metal. It's bone. Polished, carved, stained with something old. She pockets it, pours him something thick and black, then turns away. He lifts his mug. "To forgetting," he says, and downs it in one go. His eyes glaze over. His body slumps. You reach out, alarmed, but he bolts upright with a gasp. His pupils are huge. He's grinning. "She likes me," he whispers. "She likes me tonight." And just like that, he gets up and walks into the back room, where the curtain is always drawn, and no one follows. The door swings open behind the cloth, just a crack, and you glimpse it. Stairs that go down. Not like the cellar. Not stone or wood. Black. Wet. Spiraling. You blink, and it's gone. The curtain still. The room empty. You try to ask the bartender about it, but she's already pouring another drink. Yours. You didn't order it. This one smells like cinnamon and seawater. You sip. It tastes like memories you never made, an orange sun, a laugh you don't recognize, a beach that never existed. Your eyes water. The warmth in your chest now feels like longing, like grief. The bar shifts under your elbows. For a moment, it feels like the whole building rocks, not like it's unstable, but like it's floating. You glance around. No one else notices. Or maybe they're pretending not to. You suddenly wonder if the Siren's mug ever docks, or if it's always moving, drifting between ports, between years, picking up passengers and stories and debts along the way. You take another sip. The glass is empty. You don't remember drinking the rest. The bartender wipes the counter with that same filthy cloth. "Don't think so hard," she says. "This place doesn't like questions." You nod, more to yourself than her, because the question isn't where you are, it's when. And deeper still, how long have you been here? Your stool creaks. The fire hisses. And somewhere, deep below, the mug breathes. You dream of water, not the crashing kind that breaks hulls and swallows ships, but something deeper, thicker. Water that doesn't reflect the moonlight, but eats it. It's cold and silent, stretching in every direction with no bottom, no current, just pressure. In the dream, you're sinking. You open your mouth to scream, but only bubbles escape, and then, nothing. You wake up gasping, seated upright in the same crooked stool, your drink still half full. The tavern around you hasn't changed, but you have. Something's shifted. You can feel it in the way the walls lean a little closer, how the floorboards creak with your heartbeat. You rub your face and find grit beneath your nails. Salt or sand. You're not sure which is worse. There's a man sweeping the floor with a broom made from driftwood and seaweed. His skin is gray with age or something older. No one else seems to see him. You watch him work his way across the room, stopping occasionally to scrape at something dried and dark between the planks. He hums as he works. Not a song, more like a dirge. You ask the bartender about him. She glances up, frowns, and says, "He doesn't work here," then goes back to polishing her glass, like that answers anything. You watch the man for a while longer, but he never looks up, just sweeps and hums, always in circles, always ending near the blackwood table in the corner. The captain's table, still empty, still waiting. You wonder how many people have sat there and what happened to the last one. The bartender once warned you never to take that seat. And for good reason. It's not just a chair. It's a choice. An invitation. And you've seen enough to know this place doesn't offer choices without a price. A new group enters the tavern. Rowdy, wet from rain, pockets full of coin, and mouths full of bravado. You recognize the type. Fresh from a raid or a good haul, riding high on luck. They order rounds for the whole room, toss coins like breadcrumbs, and tell loud stories that sound suspiciously rehearsed. But the mug doesn't care for performance. She likes truth. And the louder they laugh, the more the shadows around them shift. One of them, a younger man with gold hoops and a crimson sash, strides confidently to the captain's table. "This seat taken?" he jokes, already halfway into it. No one laughs. The room stills. Even the sweeping man stops humming. The bartender freezes mid-pour. You want to shout, to stop him. But it's too late. He sits. A heartbeat passes. Then another. Then he grins and lifts his cup. "Told you," he says to his crew. "Just a seat like any other." But the grin falters. He looks down. His hand is stuck to the wood. Eyes wide now, pulling, twisting. But the chair won't let go. The table, the floor, even the air feels heavier, darker. One by one, the lights in the room dim, and no one helps. The silence that follows is not quiet, it's suffocating. Every creak of the floor, every drip of rain outside sounds like it's been dragged through tar. The man in the crimson sash doesn't scream, though it looks like he wants to. His mouth is open, but no sound escapes. His crew stares, frozen in place, their bravado extinguished like a snuffed candle. The bartender doesn't move. No one does. The sweeping man has vanished. And the captain's table, God help you, the table seems to be breathing. The wood pulses beneath him like a slow heartbeat. His fingers sink further into the grain, skin stretching taut, veins bulging, face pale and glistening with sweat. You feel it too, a pressure in your chest, in your head, as if something enormous has noticed the room. The man's eyes lock with yours, pleading. You want to help. You do. But your legs won't move. Your hands won't lift. You're a statue carved in fear and varnished in guilt. Then it's over. The lights flare. The wind howls once, sharp and high, like a scream being carried far out to sea. And he's gone. The chair is empty. The table bare. The dust returns as if nothing happened. His crew gasps, one man vomiting onto the floor. Another bolts for the door and slams into it. It doesn't budge. Not even a crack. He beats against it until his hands bleed. Still, it doesn't open. No one speaks. The bartender finally moves. She pours a single drink and places it at the center of the bar. "For the captain," she says softly. "May he find a shore." Her voice trembles on the last word. You realize this isn't the first time this has happened. Not by a long shot. The chair has eaten many names. Some walked in laughing. Some never made it to the bar. You stare at the empty space, and something like mourning settles over the room. The rest of the night drags. His crew, now quieter than ghosts, huddles in the corner, whispering prayers you don't recognize. One of them scratches at his arms like something's crawling beneath his skin. Another keeps trying the door, over and over, as if repetition might override fate. You sit, drink untouched, staring into the fire that offers no warmth. You wonder who the captain is. Not the one taken, no, the real captain. The one the table waits for. The one the tavern was built for. Every story in this place seems to point to someone still coming. Someone who'll settle old scores or open ancient wounds. You ask the bartender, voice low, "Does the captain ever return?" She wipes a glass, doesn't look up, and mutters, "Some ships only sail one way." You don't sleep that night. Not really. You just wait for morning. But morning never comes. There is no sunrise in the Siren's mug, no warm light slipping through gaps in the wood, no birdsong to cut the stillness, no sign the world outside is turning. Time here doesn't pass. It lingers. The air in the tavern hangs heavy, as if holding its breath. You wake at the bar, unsure if you ever truly slept, your head pounding like distant cannon fire. The candle on the table still burns, low and steady, wax hardened into strange patterns that look like coastlines you've never seen. Around you, the tavern remains unchanged, except it feels emptier, not quieter, just emptier, as if something that had been watching has finally turned its gaze elsewhere, leaving the space colder in its absence. The captain's table sits undisturbed. The crew from the night before has vanished. No goodbyes, no footsteps, just gone. Even the stain on the floor where the young man had stood is gone, scrubbed clean or absorbed. You're not sure which unnerves you more. You try the door. Still locked. No handle. No latch. Just an iron slab of storm-warped wood that refuses to remember how doors should work. You sit back down, more out of habit than decision. The bartender slides you a bowl of stew without a word. You don't ask what's in it. No one ever does. You eat slowly, chewing as though it might help you digest the dread sitting heavier than the meat. A woman approaches your table. She's old, older than seems possible, with eyes like tide pools and fingers stained from ink or blood or both. She sits without asking. "You've seen it now," she says. "It knows you." You ask her what she means. She doesn't answer, just reaches into her coat and pulls out a crumpled map. It's hand-drawn, soaked in salt water, and frayed at the edges. She unfolds it slowly, revealing a network of coastlines, each marked with tiny dots. "These are the places it's docked," she whispers. "Taverns like this one. All the same, all connected. You think you stumbled in here by chance?" She taps a point on the map with a long yellowed nail. "This was your port, but it's not your destination." You ask her what the destination is. She smiles, slow and sad. "Depends on what you owe." Then she folds the map, stands, and walks away, her footsteps making no sound. You rush after her, but she's gone. No door opened, no window cracked. Just vanished. like fog burned off by an invisible sun. You return to your seat, her words sinking in like ballast. What do you owe? You finish the stew. It leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. The candle burns low. The fire flickers. You don't remember what day it is, or if that even matters anymore. The tavern shifts again, like a ship adjusting course. And you realize you're no longer just a guest. You're cargo. The bartender places a small wooden box on the bar in front of you. No keyhole, no hinges, just dark, sea-smoothed wood with a ring of brass burned into the lid. You glance up at her, but she's already turning away. No explanation, no invitation. Just the box, waiting. You hesitate, but the mug doesn't let things wait long. You touch the lid. It's warm. Not from the fire, but from within, like it's been cradled in someone's hands for hours. You lift it slowly. Inside, nestled on a cushion of velvet black as the ocean's floor, sits a single tooth. Human, maybe. Yellowed, chipped. Wrapped in a coil of string, the kind used to bind sails or hang traders. You recoil. The box snaps shut on its own. You push it away. It doesn't move. You try again, harder this time, but it clings to the bar like it's been nailed there. You look around hoping for help or at least a distraction, but the tavern has grown quiet. The drinkers are still here, but they don't see you, or they refuse to. Their eyes glaze over the scene like you've slipped between frames in a film. You ask the bartender what the hell is going on. She shrugs. Everyone's box comes eventually, she says. The mug remembers what you've buried. You try to tell her you didn't bury anything. You've done nothing wrong. But the words catch in your throat like swallowed glass. You think back. The ship. The fire. The man who screamed too long. The treasure you never declared. The whispers about what happened below deck. Maybe you don't remember everything, but the mug does. You turn back to the box. The lid is open again. The tooth is gone. In its place, a compass. Old. Cracked. But the needle spins slow and steady, not north, but toward the captain's table. You close the lid and shove it away again. This time it slides. You exhale, dizzy with relief. Or maybe it's the drink. The bartender leans on the bar, watching you. You've got a choice, she says. Drink till the compass stops moving, or follow it and see where it points. You ask what happens if you just leave. She laughs, sharp and dry. Leave? You already did. The second you walked in. You stagger back to your stool, head pounding with the weight of truths you never wanted. The tavern groans around you, stretching like a beast waking from slumber. The fire dims. The shadows reach. Someone sings a lullaby in a language no one alive speaks anymore. And you sit there, staring at the box, wondering what you lost and what you're about to find. The compass needle spins once, clicks, and stops. Not at the table this time, at the stairs. The ones no one uses. The ones behind the curtain that only open when they want to. You hear the first step creak before you see it move. You don't remember standing, but you're already walking. Past overturned chairs, past silent drinkers pretending not to see, past the hearth that burns with heatless light. The curtain in the back sways gently, though there's no breeze. The stairs beyond descend into nothingness, just a black throat carved out of the building's bones. You glance back. The bartender nods once, slowly. There's no warning in her eyes, only recognition. Like she's seen this moment unfold 100 times before, and it always ends the same. The first step groans beneath your foot. The second is damp. By the third, the sounds of the tavern vanish completely. No voices, no fire, not even the thump of your own heartbeat. Just silence. The air is thick, humid, dense with the rot of rope, seawater, and old blood. You descend blindly, one hand trailing the wall. It's slick, warm. Breathing? You don't check. You just keep going. After what feels like hours, the stairs spill into a cavernous room that shouldn't fit beneath a place like the mug. It stretches outward like a ship's belly, wooden ribs arching high overhead, glistening with condensation. At the far end stands a figure, tall, still, cloaked in something that looks more like smoke than fabric. It doesn't move, but you feel watched, weighed, judged. You open your mouth to speak, but your voice doesn't carry. You're not sure you even made a sound. The figure steps forward, one pace, then another. Each movement echoes like a bell toll. You want to run. You can't. You want to wake. You won't. It stops just before the light touches its face. Then it lifts something into view. A mirror. Cracked, small, framed in rusted brass. Your own reflection stares back, but older, tired, scarred in places you don't recognize. This version of you has seen things, done things, survived things. Or perhaps it didn't. You blink. The figure is gone. The mirror hangs in the air for a moment, then shatters without a sound. The pieces scatter across the floor, spinning like compass needles. One shard slides to your foot. You pick it up. Inside the glass, your reflection grins at you. Not kindly. The room begins to shake. Boards groan. Water drips faster. You turn and run, up the stairs, through the curtain, back into the tavern. But it's not the same tavern anymore. Everyone's gone. The lights are out. The only glow comes from a lantern swinging above the bar, its light catching the edge of something familiar. Your drink, still full, still waiting. You sit, hands trembling, and lift the cup. It smells like the ocean before a storm. You drink it all in one go. When you set the cup down, the bartender is back. She looks at you, softer than before. "That's the first step," she says. "Now the mug knows who you really are." And the tavern, warm and endless, sways like a ship on a tide you cannot see. The tavern feels different now, not just darker, but deeper, as if it settled further into the earth, or perhaps the sea. The air is thicker, the light dimmer. You can still hear the wind outside, but it no longer sounds like wind. It whispers in patterns, calls in broken dialects, languages half remembered by sailors who never made it home. You sit in your chair, your hands still wrapped around an empty cup, and feel the weight of the mug settle on your shoulders like wet sails. You know something has changed in you, not visibly, not outwardly, but internally, like a knot that's been pulled tighter by unseen hands. The bartender places a new cup on the counter. It's made of pewter, heavy, carved with symbols you can't place. Not runes, not letters, something older. She doesn't speak, just nods toward it and disappears again, vanishing behind a curtain that hadn't been there before. You touch the cup. It's warm, pulsing faintly. Inside is a thick black liquid that smells like iron and ink. You're not sure if it's meant to be drunk or red. Before you can decide, a man slams through the front door. He's soaked, wild-eyed, clothes torn like he's been clawing his way out of something alive. The door swings open behind him and stays that way, though no wind follows. He staggers in, breathing like he's drowning. Everyone else freezes. Even the flames in the hearth stop flickering. "It followed me," he gasps. "I left the island. I left it behind. I swear." No one moves. He turns toward the room, sees your face, and staggers toward you, grabbing your shoulder. "Don't trust the charts," he whispers. "They move when you're not looking. The coastlines lie." You ask what he means, but he only smiles, horribly, emptily, and collapses. His body doesn't hit the floor. It simply fades, crumbling into dust before your eyes. The door slams shut. The wind stops. The fire resumes. And the tavern pretends nothing happened. You rise from your seat. You've had enough. Whatever this place is, you didn't sign up for it. You try the door. It's still sealed. You check the windows. They're fogged over, not from cold, but from the inside. You scrape at the glass and see nothing but black ocean. No sky, no stars. Just a restless tide slapping against the outside of the tavern as if the building itself were adrift. The bartender reappears. "You're not trapped," she says quietly. "You're aboard." You laugh. It comes out hoarse, cracked. "Aboard what?" She shrugs. "The mug. The tide took her long ago. She just picks up passengers now. Sinners, runaways, storytellers." You ask what the end of the voyage looks like. She just says, "You'll know when the sea stops moving." And outside, for the first time since you arrived, the waves go still. The silence outside is unnatural, not peaceful, dead. No crashing waves, no howling wind, no creak of wood under shifting tides. The mug has gone still, and stillness in a place like this is never good. You stand at the window, eyes straining against the fog. But even the mist feels frozen now, suspended in the air like cobwebs underwater. You place your palm to the glass. It's ice cold. Then, just for a moment, it pulses beneath your skin, like a heartbeat from the other side. You pull your hand back quickly, heart racing. Behind you, the tavern has shifted again. Not visually, nothing moved, but you feel the difference. A tension, like a crowd holding its breath. The air presses inward, heavy with anticipation. You turn, and for the first time since arriving, you notice the painting above the hearth. You could have sworn it wasn't there before. A massive canvas in a rotting frame, warped with salt. It depicts a sea battle. No, not a battle. A massacre. Ships in flames, bodies in the water. And at the center, a ship painted pitch black, its sails torn, and its flag unmarked. You step closer. The paint moves. Not like an illusion. Not like heat shimmer. The figures twist and shift, reacting to your gaze. The water ripples. The ship turns. And the captain, faceless and cloaked, raises an arm and points. Not into the painting, but out of it, toward you. You stumble back, breath caught. The bartender speaks without looking. "That's the Leviathan," she says. "Captain of the mug, or prisoner. Depends on who you ask." You ask what it wants. She shrugs. "Depends on what you brought with you." The floorboards groan beneath your feet, not with movement, but with memory. You sit, trying to breathe, but the air has changed. It smells like cannon smoke and funeral spices. Someone begins to sing again, softly. A song in a key your bones remember, but your ears do not. You hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy, and turn to see a man descending from the ceiling. Not walking down stairs, just descending, as if gravity has forgotten how to behave. He lands gently, dust rising around his boots. He's tall, dressed in an officer's coat, stitched with gold thread. His face is flawless, too flawless, smooth as carved bone, untouched by time or sin. But his eyes are empty, bottomless. He walks to the bar, sits beside you, and orders nothing. The bartender nods at him, but does not serve. He turns his head slowly to face you. "It's nearly time," he says. His voice is not human. It sounds like a tide receding, dragging pebbles and secrets with it. You have one more choice to make. You want to ask what choice, but deep down you already know. Stay or descend. And one of those options won't bring you back. The man beside you, if man is the right word, doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, just stares. And in his stare, you feel weight. Not like judgment, but like drowning. He doesn't speak again. He doesn't have to. You feel the question rising between you, unspoken but loud. Will you descend? And the worst part is, you don't know what that means. Not really. Is it a physical descent? A stairway like the one you took before? Or is it something deeper, more final, like handing over the last part of yourself that still remembers the world outside the mug? You turn to the bartender, hoping for clarity, for rules, for something to anchor you. But she's gone. Not behind the bar, not in the room. The tavern has thinned again. Tables vanish at the corners of your vision. Benches rot to splinters. The fire smolders without fuel. And outside the window, the fog has begun to swirl. Slowly, clockwise, like the eye of something waking beneath the surface. The man stands. You follow, not because you want to, but because the air behind you has hardened. The tavern is funneling you forward, toward the stairs. But not the same stairs from before. These are different. They weren't here yesterday. They weren't here an hour ago. They spiral down, impossibly narrow, carved from barnacled stone. You can smell the sea on them, but older. Not the sea you know, the sea from before names. You descend. One step, then another. Your boots crunch over sand and bone. The light from above dims quickly, swallowed by the stone. The air grows wet, then heavy, then thick with the scent of brine and rust. You pass a wall etched with names, thousands of them, some scratched deep, others shallow, like whispers. One of them is yours. You don't remember carving it. You keep going. At the bottom there's a room. Not wide, not grand, just a room with no ceiling and no floor. A place where gravity forgets its manners. At the center floats a table, circular, carved from something that might once have been coral. Around it are 6 chairs. 5 are filled. 1 is waiting. You step forward. The man gestures to the empty seat. You hesitate. He speaks. You came for a drink. You stayed for the story, but you've been chosen for the pact. You ask what pact. He only says, every mug must have a captain. The last one drowned in silence. You brought sound. You shake your head. You don't want this. You don't belong here. but the stairs have vanished. The fog above has sealed shut. The mug has stopped moving. He nods toward the seat again. You may not want the wheel, but the sea has already carved your name into its tide. And somehow you know he's right. You sit. The chair accepts you like a grave accepts its stone. The moment you sit, the air shifts. Not violently, not even noticeably, but deeply, like a current turning beneath calm waters. The other figures around the table lift their heads in unison, eyes catching yours. They aren't men, not anymore, if they ever were. One's skin is bleached bone white, stretched too tight across a skull that grins without lips. Another seems formed entirely, from smoke and salt water, never still, edges rippling like sails in a storm. Each bears the mark of the mug, not a tattoo, not a wound, but something you feel more than see. A pressure behind the eyes, a hum behind every word. One of them speaks. You've crossed the threshold. The voice is sexless, ageless, pulled from the bones of drowned sailors. Another joins. Now comes the binding. The table groans as it begins to spin, not fast, but slowly, like the grinding of an ancient anchor chain. In the center of the table, a chalice rises from beneath, black and barnacle-crusted, filled with something thicker than wine, darker than blood. You feel it before you see it. Cold, ancient, hungry. Your hand lifts, not by choice. Your fingers curl around the cup. It's warm, familiar, like a memory you wish you could forget. The others watch, but do not move. You bring the chalice to your lips. The smell hits first. Salt, smoke, something metallic. Something like iron chains left too long in the sea. You drink. Not because you want to, but because the mug has decided. The liquid burns. Not down your throat, but behind your eyes, your ears, your fingertips. You hear every story that's ever been told inside this place, all at once. Every lie, every toast, every scream before the silence. You see ships sinking in reverse, bones assembling into bodies, men laughing through slit throats. And at the heart of it all, the mug, floating on tides, no map records, collecting the broken, the guilty, the forgotten. When the cup is empty, the table stops spinning. The others nod, and their chairs fade. First the legs, then the arms, then the faces, until only you remain. The chalice melts into mist. The room dissolves. You're behind the bar now. The tavern is full again. The hearth roars. Voices rise. Tankards clink. Patrons laugh too loudly and drink too deeply. The mug lives, and you are its new anchor. The bartender's apron hangs from a hook beside you. It fits perfectly. No one meets your eyes. No one notices the change. They never do. The drinkers come and go. But you stay. You pour. You watch. Because every tavern needs a keeper. And every tale must end with someone left behind to tell it. The apron feels heavier than cloth should allow. It's not just fabric, it's a mantle, a curse, a seal. You tie it around your waist, and something inside you shifts, clicks into place. Behind the bar, every bottle is familiar. You know their weight, their names, their secrets. You know which ones offer comfort and which ones crack open memories like chests full of rot. You can feel the mug now, not just see it or smell it, but feel it. In your teeth, in your blood. The walls breathe with you. The floor pulses faintly beneath your boots, like the deck of a ship riding a distant storm. The door opens. A new patron enters, and it's like watching a dream step into the waking world. Soaked boots, tired eyes, a coin pouch that jingles just a little too loudly. He doesn't look at you, just at the room, searching for something he's not sure exists. You know the type. They always come in looking for something they've lost, a friend, a map, a second chance. What they don't realize is that the mug only offers one thing: reflection. And the reflections here cut deeper than knives. He sits at the bar. You pour him a drink without asking, because you already know what he needs. Not what he wants, what he needs. The mug slides to him like it has a will of its own. He raises it slowly, as if expecting poison. In a way, he's not wrong. The mug doesn't kill, not directly. It reminds. And most men die from the weight of their own past, not from blade or bullet. He takes a sip. His eyes widen. He sees something in the mirror behind the bar. A woman, a shoreline, a noose. His hand shakes. He puts the drink down, but it's too late. The mug has tasted him. You speak, and your voice doesn't sound like your own. It's older, echoed, like it's coming from the planks, from the sails, from the sea beyond the windows. Long night ahead, you say. He nods slowly. He doesn't ask who you are. He already knows. On some level, they all do. You're not the first. And if the tides hold true, you won't be the last. Another enters, then another. Soon the tavern is alive again. Laughter, music, lies traded like coins. And through it all, you serve, watching, listening, learning the shape of every sin poured across your bar, because that's what the mug feeds on: guilt, sorrow, longing. You're not a bartender. You're a lighthouse turned inside out, drawing them in, letting them break. And outside, the sea begins to stir once more. The mug is moving again. It always moves when the stories grow loud. There are no clocks in the mug, no bells, no sun, no shadow that tracks the passage of time. But you feel it anyway, in the churn of the patrons, in the rhythm of their retellings. Some stay for minutes, some for years, and none can tell which is which. Time here doesn't pass. It pools. It waits. It collects in corners, curdles behind barrels, lingers in the eyes of old sailors telling stories they swore they'd forget. And you, now behind the bar, you begin to recognize the loops, the patterns, the inevitabilities. Tonight, a crew arrives together. That's rare. Usually, the mug isolates them, but these 5, rowdy, armed, drunk on recent fortune, burst in like a cannonball through calm seas. They shout orders, toss gold, slap backs. One wears a hat too large for his head. Another keeps spitting on the floor. The leader, a red-coated brute with eyes like rust, makes the mistake of calling you boy before asking for your strongest drink. You serve them without blinking. The tavern shifts. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, like a ship changing course. The regulars hush. The fire dims. The laughter fades into whispers. The newcomers don't notice. They've brought a map with them. You see it as they unfurl it across the largest table. Not parchment, not paper. Human skin, inked in blood and desperation. They're chasing something. An island, a vault, a ghost. They argue over routes, over tides, over whether it's cursed or blessed. One says he heard about it from a dying monk. Another claims it came to him in a dream. The red-coated captain slams his tankard. We set out at dawn. Nothing stops us. But something already has. You glance toward the painting above the hearth, the ship in black, the faceless figure. Tonight it seems closer, as if the sea within the canvas has begun to leak into the tavern. You smell salt again, rotten wood, wet ropes. One of the crew, youngest of the lot, barely more than a boy, rises to relieve himself. He opens the back door and never returns. No one notices for a while. When they do, they assume he passed out or wandered off. You know better. The mug doesn't let the innocent linger. It claims what it needs. Eventually, the others grow uneasy. They drink less, speak softer. Begin to notice that their reflections in the windows don't quite match their movements. That the map they brought flickers under the candlelight, roots twisting just slightly when unobserved. The red-coated captain catches your eye and frowns. "You been listening?" he asks. You smile. Always. That's when the storm outside begins. But there's no lightning, no thunder. Just a low, endless groan, like the sea floor shifting in its sleep. The walls tremble, the mug moves, and the hunt, for them, has already begun. The crew pretends not to notice at first. Sailors are experts at denial. They drink louder, laugh harder, force their voices to rise above the uneasy silence that's crept into the tavern like a leak in a hull. But the mug is patient. It doesn't strike. It surrounds. The red-coated captain still clutches the map, his fingers now white-knuckled, as though he thinks grip alone might anchor him. His men glance toward the door, unsure when it stopped leading to the dock and began opening to something else. One tries it. He disappears. Not vanishes, just ceases, like a name forgotten mid-sentence. Now the room begins to notice. Tables that weren't there yesterday are pressed tight against the walls. The hearth flickers cold, and the bar, your bar, seems longer than before. The bottles stretch endlessly, each one a different hue, a different era, a different sin. You know where each came from. You know what each demands. You know which ones scream when uncorked and which whisper memories instead. The crew turns to you. "What is this?" the captain demands, though his voice lacks conviction. You place a fresh tankard in front of him. "It's the reckoning," you say. That's when the lights die. Not just the candles or the fire, but everything. The mug drowns in blackness so complete that even sound seems to vanish with it. The crew curses, stumbles, fumbles for swords and pistols that won't matter. You stand still. The dark welcomes you now. It recognizes you. You feel the shape of the tavern around you, not the architecture, but its memory. You hear the wood groan, the nails sigh. You hear the prayers scratched into the underside of the tables, the last gasps of men too proud to weep aloud. Then, slowly, light returns, not from fire, but from the windows. Outside, the sea glows green-blue, casting pale, shimmering veins across the floor. The ocean has risen. It now presses against the glass. Fish with hollow eyes drift past. A severed hand floats by. Then a face you recognize but can't name. The captain's men begin to panic. One fires a pistol. The shot tears into the mirror behind the bar, but there is no sound. Only a ripple. The bullet vanishes like a lie in confession. Another man tries to claw his way up the stairs, but the stairs are gone. In their place is a spiraling drop, bottomless and wet, echoing with a heartbeat too slow to be human. You step around the bar and speak once more. The mug remembers debts. You say it softly like a lullaby. The red-coated man snarls, lunges at you, and freezes. He's stuck, mid-step, mid-breath. The tavern has judged him. His body begins to twist, not physically, but wrong. His shadow peels away from him, dragged screaming across the floor. Then it's over. The others flee into corners, praying to gods that don't visit here. You pour another drink. The mug is still thirsty. The tavern is quiet again. Not with peace, but with aftermath. The kind of silence that comes after a storm has passed, but before anyone dares to open the shutters. The red-coated captain is gone, or at least, what's left behind is no longer him. A scorch mark on the floor, a torn scrap of map drifting through the air like ash. His men, now scattered through the mug's recesses, are no longer a crew. They're just prey without a ship. And you, keeper, anchor, witness, return to your place behind the bar. You don't speak. You don't need to. The tavern is listening for you now. One of the remaining men, the spitting one, dares to approach. His swagger is gone. His hands shake. His eyes flick nervously toward the windows, where the sea outside has turned dark again. Too dark, with shapes beneath the surface that watch without blinking. He leans in. "What is this place?" he whispers, as if that will shield him from the answer. You pour him a drink. "The same place it's always been," you say. "A mirror for those who've forgotten what they truly are." He stares at the mug, doesn't touch it. Maybe he's wiser than he looks. But wisdom is not armor. The mug doesn't care how clever you are, only how much you regret. The door opens again. It shouldn't. The sea's pressed against it now. But it opens anyway, and in walks a woman in black. She's dry, unaffected. Her boots echo on the warped floor like they own the place. She doesn't look around. Doesn't need to. She's been here before. Not this room, perhaps, but this ritual. You feel it. She carries her own gravity, her own tide. She approaches the table where the remaining crew has gathered. They go still, like rabbits spotting a hawk. "You stole something," she says, voice flat. Not a question. A fact. One of them begins to protest. She raises a hand. He stops. "You took it from the drowned archive," she continues. "You fed it lies and called it treasure. You wrapped it in blood and secrets and passed it off as fortune." Her eyes fall on the map. It curls like burning paper. "We didn't know," one whimpers. "You never do." She turns and walks to the captain's table, the one at the back, the one no one should sit at, and sits. The tavern inhales. Every bottle on the shelf clinks together. The flames in the hearth twist into blue shapes. Somewhere upstairs or down, you hear a bell toll once, deep and final. She doesn't flinch. She pours herself a drink from the bottle closest to her. It's empty, but liquid still fills her cup. The mug honors her. That terrifies you more than anything, because for the first time since you sat behind this bar, you're not sure who's in charge anymore. The woman in black does not sip her drink. She studies it, as if reading tea leaves in the swirl of its surface. Around her, the tavern holds its breath. The remaining crew members have retreated into corners, shadows clinging to them like guilt. You stand frozen behind the bar, hand resting on a bottle that's grown too warm, its label faded with centuries of grief. She hasn't looked at you, and yet you feel seen. Not just seen, known, unraveled, measured, judged. Then she speaks, not to you, not to them, but to the room itself. Anchors slipped. The words are simple. Their effect is not. The timbers groan as though stretched. The lanterns flare. Something below the floorboards knocks. Once, twice, like a fist on a coffin lid. A crack zigzags across the mirror behind you, even though no one touched it. You hear whispers in the glass, languages never meant for mouths. The mug shudders, and for a moment you feel the whole structure tilt toward the sea. She drinks. One long pull. Her throat moves like someone swallowing a memory too large to keep. When she slams the cup back down, it echoes like cannon fire. Dust falls from the rafters. One of the crew screams. You're not sure which. It doesn't matter. They're all marked now. You can see it clearly, as though a layer of skin has been peeled back. The first has murder on his breath. The second carries stolen prayers in his boots. The third, the quiet one, simply reeks of cowardice. He'll be the last to die. The mug always saves the worst for dessert. The woman finally turns her head toward you. Her eyes are not human, not anymore. They look like oil and moonlight and everything in between. You're new, she says, not kindly, not cruelly, just noting a fact. You nod. The mug's been drifting, she continues. Off course, ungrounded. You clear your throat, unsure why you're speaking. It still takes them, she tilts her head. It always will. That's not the problem. What is? She leans forward and the air between you tightens like a snare. You don't remember your name. You open your mouth, but nothing comes. She's right. The realization lands hard, like a mast crashing to deck. You remember storms, screams, a knife in your hand, but not who held it, not who you were before the mug claimed you. That's how it starts, she says. That's how you lose the helm. Then she stands. The drink vanishes. The chair collapses to dust. And the door swings open again, this time to reveal the sea, still and endless and waiting. She steps through it, gone, and in her place, the wind returns, carrying with it a ship's bell, tolling from somewhere far, far below. The door doesn't close behind her. It hangs ajar like a broken jaw, and the sea stares back through the gap, endless, unmoving, unnatural. Not a single wave rolls. Not a breeze stirs the mist. You see no moon, no stars, just a black sheet of water and a horizon that curves too sharply, like the edge of a world not meant for walking. The woman is gone, and yet she isn't. Her presence lingers in the warped planks, in the rattling bottles, in the way the air now smells faintly of burnt citrus and salt. The crew remains huddled together, all pretense gone. These aren't pirates anymore. They're children caught playing with ghosts. One of them finally speaks, soft, trembling. What was she? His voice barely carries, like a whisper on a dying wind. You don't answer. Not because you don't know, but because the mug wouldn't let you explain if you tried. You only know she was older than this place, and possibly the reason it still floats between docks and timelines like a ship lost in a bottle. You turn your gaze to the cracked mirror again. In it you see, not your face, but the bar as it was long ago. Newer wood, clean glasses, smiling faces, laughter that didn't echo like screams underwater. And behind the bar, someone else. Someone with your eyes, your hands, but younger, human. The floor beneath your boots shifts, creaking like a hull turning in deep water. You glance down and realize the grain of the wood no longer runs straight. It spirals, like the inside of a whirlpool. You blink. It's gone. But your balance is slower to return. One of the men lurches to his feet. He grabs the map and begins to tear it, shouting nonsense. Symbols, curses, names not meant to be spoken. Another tries to stop him and gets a knife in the gut for the effort. Blood hits the floor with a wet slap and vanishes, soaks into the boards as if the mug itself is drinking. The knife wielder stands panting, wide-eyed. I didn't mean to, but the tavern doesn't care. His shadow peels away, slipping across the floor like ink spilled in reverse. It slithers under a table, up the wall, and disappears through a rafter knot. The man follows it with his eyes, then collapses. Silence again. You look down the bar. A new drink waits for you. You didn't pour it. No one did. But it's there, warm, pulsing faintly, with a glow, like embers in wet ash. You reach for it, pause, and finally ask the question you've been avoiding since the woman spoke. Who was I? The mug does not answer, but the drink does. When it touches your lips, you remember. A storm, a mutiny, a voice screaming for mercy, and your own hand, steady as it cut the rope around the captain's throat. The memory doesn't fade. It anchors itself in your skull like a rusted hook, pulling pieces of your past up from the dark where you'd buried them. You see flashes, salt-soaked decks, the glint of knives, the sound of boots slipping in blood. You remember the captain's eyes as they bulged, not with fear, but betrayal. He wasn't pleading for life. He was cursing you with his last breath. Not a scream, not a prayer. A curse, sharp and deliberate, spat through a dying throat. May the sea forget you. And somehow, it did. Or worse, it remembered you wrong. The drink in your hand trembles, still half full. You set it down gently, afraid that finishing it might complete something you can't undo. The tavern has gone quiet again. The crew is nearly gone. The one who was stabbed lies motionless. The one who did the stabbing is curled into himself like a child pretending to sleep through thunder. And the last man, the one who said nothing, just stares at the hearth. Still, still, still. You realize the fire is gone. The hearth is cold. The ashes are undisturbed, like no flame ever burned there at all. You step closer and run your hand over the stone. It's dry, smooth, unreal. The warmth you once imagined was just that, imagination. You wonder what else in this place is memory pretending to be matter. And then the bell rings. Once, twice, 3 times. It doesn't come from outside, nor above, nor below. It comes from within the mug itself, as though the walls have lungs and are exhaling sound. The bottles on the shelves shiver. Dust drifts down like slow snow. And behind the bar, a section of the floor splits. Not loudly, not with drama. Just opens, like a mouth yawning in the dark. Steps descend into blackness. You look to the last man, quiet, unmoving. "Do you see that?" you ask. He doesn't respond. You step from behind the bar and edge closer. The air from the stairwell is colder than ice. It smells of deep water, rotting parchment, and something sweet that makes your gums ache. You light a lantern, though you're not sure when you picked one up. The flame sputters but holds. You begin to descend. The wood groans beneath your weight. Each step feels like a sentence. The lantern casts long shadows down the passage, stretching ahead of you like warnings. The walls close in, tight and curved, like the inside of a barrel or a throat. At the bottom you find a door, iron-bound, locked with something that isn't metal. It looks like bone. The lock has no keyhole, only a symbol, the same one that was branded into the captain's chest after he died. A mark you now remember carving yourself. You reach out to touch it, and the door shudders. Something on the other side has been waiting a very long time, and now it knows you're here. The moment your fingers brush the bone lock, the door inhales, not opens, breathes. Wood and iron stretch inward like skin drawing around a lung. The symbol at its center pulses faintly, as if recognizing its maker. You feel warmth flood your fingertips, not the comforting kind, but the feverish flush of old guilt rising to the surface. You snatch your hand away, but it's too late. The door has tasted you. Now it will not forget. Behind you, the staircase has vanished, not collapsed, vanished. The lantern flickers, sputters, and steadies, but the flame's color has shifted. It burns deep green now, casting everything in a sickly hue. The walls around you groan, not from age, from memory. The planks begin to swell with moisture, droplets forming along the grain like sweat. You know what this means. The mug is deepening. It's said the Siren's mug doesn't just drift from port to port, it sinks, not into the ocean, but into people, into their pasts, their crimes, their choices. And you? You built the stairs when you cut the rope. You opened the door with that single act. The mug didn't trap you, it followed you. The door exhales. You turn the bone lock. It doesn't resist. It melts beneath your palm like wax. The door swings open. Inside is not a room. It's a hold, a ship's belly, but not any ship you've ever served on. The walls curve too tightly. The ribs of the hull are made of petrified coral and something darker, old wood soaked in ink and blood. Chains hang from the beams, hooks from the ceiling. You walk in, each step echoing against the warped floor. At the center sits a table, long, carved with names. Some are scratched out, others are fresh, and seated at the head is a man, or what used to be one. He's dressed in a captain's coat, though time and salt have chewed through most of it. His face is hidden beneath a tangle of hair and shadow, but his hands are folded neatly before him. He doesn't move, doesn't breathe. You think he's dead, until he speaks. You're late. The voice is a rasp, like kelp dragged across teeth. You freeze. I've been waiting, he continues. You promised you'd return. You try to deny it, but the memory creeps in. A deal struck in the middle of a storm. A knife in one hand, a bottle in the other. You swore something. A trade. I kept the mug alive, he says. Fed it. Steered it through ports of ruin. And you ran. He lifts his head. You see nothing but empty sockets. Now it's your turn. You step back, but the door is gone. There is only the table, the captain, and the vow you thought you'd outrun. The mug does not forget, and debts always come home. You want to scream, but there's no air left to carry it. The hold wraps tighter around you, a space that feels like it's breathing in reverse, pulling everything in, nothing out. The captain, or whatever he's become, doesn't blink. He doesn't need to. He sees through time now. Through you. Sit, he commands, and it's not a request. The chair across from him slides back on its own, legs screeching across the wood like nails dragged over bone. You resist, only for a moment. The mug punishes hesitation. You've seen it twist wood into rope, ale into acid, laughter into screams. You take the seat. It groans beneath your weight, not because it's weak, but because it knows what's coming. The captain places something between you on the table. A coin, black as pitch, too heavy for its size. Do you remember this? He asks. You don't, but your hands begin to shake anyway. He slides it toward you. It was the price, he says. You paid it, and in doing so, gave the mug its spine. You made it more than a place. You made it a trap. You swallow hard. The memories crawl back in pieces, how you convinced a desperate crew to mutiny, how you promised them safety, freedom, an end to wandering. How you led them into the mug that first time, telling them it was just a tavern with good rum and a hidden harbor. But you had already made the deal. You just didn't expect it to collect so soon. You thought you escaped, the captain murmurs. But it let you go. It always lets the first one go. To spread the map. You feel the coin under your palm now. It pulses like a heartbeat. Not yours, its own, the mug's. Why bring me back, you ask? You had the mug. You were in control. His smile is nothing more than a twitch of rot. Control? No. Stewardship. I was the anchor. But anchors rust. And now the tide's rising again. You, old friend, are the next link. The walls shudder. Chains above begin to swing, creaking in rhythm with a heartbeat too large to belong to anything living. You look down at the table. The carvings are moving, letters rearranging themselves, names rewriting into different tongues. Your own, it appears. And beneath it, Keeper. You recoil. No, you whisper. I won't. But you already have. The mug doesn't ask for consent. It demands inheritance. The captain stands. Dust falls from his coat in soft plumes. He walks past you, his feet silent. Don't worry, he says. You won't be alone. The mug brings them in. Always. And now they'll come for you. He opens the far wall like a curtain, revealing not sea, but memory. Hundreds of them, drifting toward you. Eyes empty. Hands reaching. All the souls you lured in, And now they've come home. They don't speak as they approach, these ghosts of your own making. Their mouths hang slack, some half rotted, others whispering prayers in languages older than the sea. You recognize every face, not names, not stories, but the way they looked the night they walked into the mug for the first time. Lost, starving, smiling at the promise of warmth and a place to hide. You welcomed them. You poured their drinks. You let them believe the danger lived outside the door. But it didn't. It sat behind the bar. It sat where you sit now. The captain is gone, vanished into the mist of memory and debt repaid. The room tilts, not violently, but steadily, like a ship caught in the slow curve of a whirlpool. You grip the edges of the table as the floor groans beneath you, the sound of soaked timber surrendering to weight it was never meant to bear. The ghosts keep coming. They don't hurry. They don't have to. This place exists outside of urgency. The mug has all the time in the world. A woman in a red kerchief reaches the table first. Her face is missing one eye, and the socket still weeps brine. She lays a cracked cup in front of you. Another ghost sets a knife beside it. A third, a boy no older than 16, silently places a length of rope. Each of them adds to the altar of your guilt. They aren't here to harm you, not physically. They are reminders, anchors. You're being weighed down not with chains, but memory. The walls of the hold pulse. Lanterns swing from hooks you didn't notice before. The flame inside them is pale and flickering, as if it's trying to remember how to be fire. You look around and realize this room has no corners, only curves. It's womb-like, a place where something gestates, something ancient and hungry. The floor beneath your feet becomes soft, spongy, wet. You don't want to look down. You do anyway. It's not wood anymore. It's flesh. Pale, veined, breathing. It accepts the weight of your boots without protest, but you can feel it flex each time you shift. The mug is no longer pretending to be a building. It's revealing its true nature. It's a creature, a parasite. And you are inside its stomach. Suddenly, the table splits, not with a crack, but a sigh. A new cup rises from its center, smooth, black, empty. You understand. Your turn. The ghosts back away, slowly, reverently. The room stills. You reach for the cup, fingers trembling, breath caught in your throat. You know what you're about to do. You just don't know what comes after. The mug does not forgive, but it lets you serve. You raise the cup to your lips. The drink tastes like salt, ash, and a promise kept too late. You are no longer a guest. You are the tavern now. And the door creaks open above, welcoming the next one in. The door above opens with a whine that echoes through the mug like a ship's final scream before it splits on rock. You don't see the newcomer yet, but you feel them. Hesitant boots scuffing the entryway, breath held tight in a ribcage, still naive to the cost of warmth. The ghosts recede, melting into the walls, the rafters, the lantern flames. They've served their purpose. They've delivered you to this moment, and now they wait in silence, just beyond the veil, ready to be summoned again. You sit in the captain's seat now. You don't remember standing. You don't remember the moment you stopped resisting. But the cup is empty in your hand, and the weight on your shoulders is heavy in ways no cloth or coat could explain. The air bends around you differently now, slower, heavier, as if the mug breathes through you. You are the new gravity here, the axis on which this haunted thing spins. Footsteps descend the stairs. The lanterns flicker awake. Bottles tremble slightly on the shelves. You watch through the warped door frame as the figure steps fully inside. A woman, young, barely more than a girl, wrapped in a coat 3 sizes too large. She squints into the dim, adjusts the cutlass at her belt, and takes another tentative step forward. She doesn't know it yet, but her choices have already begun rewriting the wood beneath her feet. You don't call out. You don't need to. The mug will take care of the introductions. The girl walks to the bar. She hesitates, then knocks on the counter. 3 quick taps. The sound echoes far too long. The bartender appears, though it's not the woman who used to stand there. It's someone else. Or something else. She's wearing the same apron. Her smile is familiar. But her eyes... You don't recognize those eyes. They're yours. The girl orders a drink. The bartender nods. You remember this dance. You performed it once, 1,000 lifetimes ago. A weary sailor, a stranger in search of warmth. You realize now that every person who's ever wandered into the mug has been caught in this loop, led here not by chance, but by the trail of whispers you left behind. Every story you told, every lie you polished, they weren't warnings, they were invitations. The girl sips her drink. She smiles. You feel the mug smile with her. And in that moment, you understand the final horror. You don't escape the mug by running. You don't fight it. You become it. Every captain who sat at this table thought they were different, that they could steer the nightmare. But the mug was never a ship. It was the ocean. And now she's adrift inside it, just like you were, just like you are. And one day, she'll pour the drink and watch someone else walk in. The girl's eyes widen as she scans the room, the same way you once did. The flickering candlelight casts shadows that stretch and twist, playing tricks on her senses. She notices the carvings etched deep into the bar. Names, dates, warnings hidden in codes only the initiated understand. She watches the patrons carefully, noting their stares, the way they part like a current when someone moves through. She doesn't yet realize she's being measured, weighed, and found wanting. You see yourself in her hesitation, the subtle tension in her shoulders, the quick flicks of her gaze toward exits that don't exist. She orders another drink, fingers trembling just a little, and you feel the pull of the mug tighten around her like a noose woven from old regrets and unspoken promises. The bartender, with your eyes, slides the drink over with a knowing smile. It's an unspoken welcome, a warning. Outside, the harbor roils quietly beneath a sky that never quite clears. The sea carries whispers on the wind, tales of ships lost without a trace, crews vanished beneath the waves, and the ever-present pull of the Siren's mug. Inside, the girl takes a cautious sip and immediately grimaces. The taste is bitterness and salt, and the unmistakable sting of inevitability. She swallows and meets your gaze for the first time. There's recognition there, not of you, but of what you've become. The weight of it presses between you like the stillness before a storm. Her fingers tighten around the cup, knuckles whitening. She knows this place is a trap, but the promise of safety, of belonging, of escape from the endless horizon clouds her judgment. The mug offers refuge in exchange for sacrifice, and the line between the two blurs with every passing moment. You want to warn her, to tell her the truth behind the stories and the blood-stained maps. But the mug does not forgive truth tellers. It demands participants. And so, you stay silent, letting her find the path you once walked, the same path from which there is no return. The tavern's shadows shift, swallowing the corners of the room. A parrot squawks somewhere, a sharp, accusing cry that reverberates through the silence. The girl flinches, eyes darting, heart pounding. The night deepens, and with it the mug's hunger grows. You watch as the walls seem to close in, the air thickening like fog rolling in from the sea. Every breath is heavier, laden with history and secrets. The girl stands abruptly, almost knocking over her drink. She turns to leave but finds the door where it was, gone, replaced by a wall of black water, reflecting nothing but the void. Panic bubbles to the surface, but before she can scream, a hand rests on her shoulder, steady, unyielding. You see the flicker of understanding dawn in her eyes as she realizes she's not alone. Together, you both stare into the darkness, the boundary between past and present blurring. The mug awaits, patient, insatiable, and in its depths, the tides of countless lost souls ebb and flow, pulling new victims into the endless current. You drink deeply, steadying yourself for the voyage ahead, because now you are the keeper, the mug's sentinel, the last beacon before the endless night. And her journey has only just begun. The tavern settles into a brittle calm, but the silence is only a prelude. You and the girl stand together, shadows against the black water that now blocks the exit. Her breaths come fast, uneven, fear sharpened by the cold grip of realization. You try to offer reassurance, but words fail. The mug speaks in other tongues now, creaking beams, whispered curses, the shifting weight of unseen eyes. Suddenly, the floor beneath you vibrates, low, rhythmic. Not the steady thump of a heartbeat, but something older, deeper, like the ocean's pulse before a storm. The walls breathe and shift, peeling back layers of wood and history. From the depths, a faint glow emerges, a greenish light seeping through cracks like bioluminescent algae. The girl reaches out, trembling fingers grazing the glow. It pulses at her touch, alive with ancient power. "What is this place?" she whispers. You glance around. The tavern transformed. No longer a mere refuge or prison. It is a living entity, pulsing with the memories and souls trapped within. The green light grows stronger, illuminating faces etched into the walls, faces contorted in terror, defiance, and despair. They watch you, silent witnesses to the eternal dance of captors and captives. The mug is a graveyard and a cradle, a tomb and a womb, endlessly cycling lives through pain and promise. A cold wind sweeps through the room, carrying salt and loss. The girl shivers and pulls her coat tighter. You notice her eyes have changed, now reflecting the depths of the sea, swirling with storms and calm alike. She is becoming part of the mug, whether she wants to or not. Behind you, the door reappears. But it's no longer an escape. It's a portal to deeper mysteries. The air thickens, the green light casting eerie patterns on the floor. You know the next step will bind you tighter to the tavern's fate. Together, you and the girl step toward the door, ready to descend into the mug's heart. The journey ahead is uncertain, dangerous, and eternal. The tavern waits, patient and hungry, its tale unending. You step through the door with the girl close behind, the air growing cooler and denser as the tavern's walls close in around you. The greenish glow from before deepens, illuminating an ancient spiral staircase winding down into the depths. Each step creaks beneath your weight, a haunting chorus of voices whispering from below. The mug's heartbeat grows louder, resonating through your chest, syncing with your pulse until you're unsure where you end and the tavern begins. Descending, the walls narrow, the air thick with salt and the scent of forgotten things. Strange symbols etched in fading ink line the stone steps. Warnings, curses, or perhaps invitations. You trace them lightly, feeling a shiver ripple through your skin. The mug is alive, and it remembers every soul who has dared to cross its threshold. At the bottom, you enter a cavernous chamber lit by flickering bioluminescent fungi clinging to damp walls. The space is filled with relics from lost voyages, shattered compasses, barnacle-encrusted maps, rusted swords, and tattered sails. Each object hums with sorrow and untold stories, a graveyard of hopes and dreams swallowed by the sea and the mug alike. The girl's footsteps falter, her wide eyes reflecting the haunting beauty and weight of this place. You reach out, steadying her, but she shakes her head, determined to face the darkness ahead. A low rumble echoes, and the chamber seems to pulse with life, as if the mug itself breathes beneath your feet. Suddenly, the floor shifts, revealing a hidden hatch. It creaks open, unveiling a narrow passage disappearing into blackness. You exchange a glance. There's no turning back now. Together you step into the unknown, the tavern's whispers growing louder, weaving around you like a storm's promise. The mug waits, and you have answered its call. The passage swallows you, cold and unyielding, the air thick with damp and the weight of centuries. Your footsteps echo against slick stone walls, the only sound besides the distant drip of water and the low hum that seems to emanate from the very marrow of the earth. The girl trails close behind, her breath a steady rhythm beside your own, though the fear in her eyes is impossible to mask. Neither of you speaks, each lost in the labyrinth of thoughts stirred by this descent into darkness. As you move deeper, the tunnel narrows, forcing you to walk single file. The faint glow from behind fades, swallowed by shadows so dense they feel almost tangible. Yet, the darkness is not empty. It vibrates with the whispers of countless souls trapped in limbo. The voices brush against your mind like waves against a battered hull, their tales fragmented yet insistent. Some plead for release. Others murmur curses meant to bind the unwary forever. Suddenly, the ground beneath you shifts. The stone becomes softer, like wet sand, sinking slightly beneath your boots. You steady yourself against the wall, the cold seeping through your coat. Ahead, a faint light flickers, an eerie phosphorescence casting pale blue-green hues over ancient carvings etched deep into the walls. The symbols pulse faintly, a rhythmic beat that matches the growing pressure in your chest. You recognize some of the shapes, anchors entwined with serpents, ships lost to storms, names erased by time. The girl stops, pointing to one carving, a spiral entwined with a broken chain. "What does this mean?" she asks, voice barely a whisper. Before you can answer, a chilling wind snakes through the passage, extinguishing the light and plunging you into complete darkness. Your heart hammers. You fumble for the lantern, but the flame refuses to ignite. Panic flares in the girl's eyes as the whispers grow louder, swirling into a cacophony of sorrow and rage. Then from the shadows, a figure steps forward, silent, impossibly still. Its eyes glow faintly, reflecting the last embers of your fading courage. The mug has sent its guardian, a sentinel bound by ancient magic to test those who dare trespass. You stand your ground, knowing that the next moments will decide not just your fate, but whether the girl's journey continues or ends here, swallowed by the tavern's endless hunger. The figure steps forward, its form shifting in the faintest hint of the phosphorescent glow returning. It is neither fully solid nor entirely spectral, a guardian forged from the memories of those lost to the mug. Its eyes, twin embers burning with an otherworldly light, lock onto you. There's no malice, but an unyielding weight of judgment. The air tightens and the whispers fade into a suffocating silence, as if the tavern itself is holding its breath. You meet the guardian's gaze, feeling centuries of history pressing against your soul. This is the crucible, the moment where intent and truth collide. The guardian's form flickers, revealing glimpses of faces, some familiar, others distorted by time and regret. Each visage carries the burden of a story unfinished, debts unpaid, promises broken. The mug does not forget, and neither does its sentinel. Without words, the guardian raises a hand, and the carvings along the walls begin to glow brighter, illuminating a path winding deeper into the underbelly of the tavern. It's an invitation or a demand, you cannot tell which. The path is narrow, twisting, lined with symbols that pulse like living things. You glance at the girl. Her resolve is unshaken despite the fear etched on her face. Taking a deep breath, you step forward, the guardian's eyes following every move. The stones beneath your feet feel less solid, as if the mug itself is breathing beneath you, alive and watching. Your lantern flickers weakly to life, casting long shadows that dance like ghosts along the walls. The whispers return, softer now, as if carried on a distant tide, beckoning you onward. Ahead, the path opens into a cavernous chamber. The air here is thick with salt and sorrow, heavy with the weight of countless souls lost to the sea and the mug's insatiable hunger. In the center stands a pedestal carved from coral and bone, upon which rests an ancient relic, an hourglass filled not with sand, but with shimmering seawater that flows upward, defying gravity and time. The guardian gestures toward the relic, and you understand the hourglass is the heart of the mug's power. It holds the balance between life and death, past and future, freedom and entrapment. To move forward, to escape this cursed place, you must confront the flow of time itself and reckon with the debts you owe. The girl steps beside you, her hand trembling as she reaches out. Together you prepare to face the tide that has pulled so many beneath its surface, knowing that the next choice will change everything. Your fingers hover above the ancient hourglass, the seawater inside shimmering with a hypnotic light that seems to pulse in rhythm with your heartbeat. The air around you feels charged, as if the very fabric of time has thinned and shifted within this chamber beneath the tavern. The relic is no mere artifact. It is the soul of the Siren's mug, the source of its power to trap, to bind, and to consume. You realize that to disturb it is to challenge the tide itself, to risk unraveling the threads of fate woven through every soul caught in this endless cycle. The girl beside you watches with wide eyes, her breath shallow and rapid. You sense her struggle between fear and resolve, the same struggle that once gripped you. She is both a reflection of your past and a warning of what lies ahead. The weight of what you must do settles heavily on your shoulders. You must confront the mug's curse, not with blade or gun, but with sacrifice and will. As your fingers make contact with the cool glass, the chamber trembles. The water within the hourglass shifts suddenly, flowing faster, then reversing, swirling in impossible patterns. Time warps around you. You catch glimpses of moments long gone, the laughter and cries of those who drank here before, the faces of friends turned foes, the bitter last glances of captains lost to greed and fate. You see yourself too, young, hopeful, and foolish. The guardian's eyes burn brighter, watching silently, waiting for the outcome. You feel the pull to turn away, to flee this chamber and the terrible truth it holds. But the hourglass is a mirror. It reflects not just what has been, but what could be. Your choices here will ripple outward, shaping not only your destiny, but the fate of every soul bound to the mug. You grip the hourglass firmly and tilt it. The seawater begins to pour upward, spilling from the top like a cascade of shimmering stars. The chamber fills with the sound of rushing water and whispered voices, memories flooding back with relentless clarity. You close your eyes and make a silent vow to break the cycle, to claim the freedom long denied. When you open your eyes, the girl stands beside you, her hand still resting lightly on your arm. Together, you face the shifting tides, ready to rewrite the story. But the mug is patient, and the night is far from over. The moment the seawater spills upward, the chamber quakes with a deep, sonorous roar that vibrates through your bones. The hourglass's glow intensifies, casting prismatic light across the damp walls, illuminating centuries of scars etched by forgotten hands. The guardian moves aside, a silent sentinel acknowledging your passage, yet its watchful gaze never leaves. You and the girl stand at the crossroads of fate, caught between the cyclical pull of the mug and the fragile hope of breaking free. The air thickens, heavy with salt and whispers. Shadows ripple along the edges of your vision, shifting into fleeting images, faces contorted in fear, betrayal, and desperation. You feel them reaching out, spectral hands grasping at your resolve. This is the mug's final test, not of strength or wit, but of heart and sacrifice. Suddenly, the chamber's floor shifts beneath you, revealing a swirling vortex of water and light. The boundary between the tavern's depths and the endless sea blurs. You hear the haunting call of the siren, soft, mournful, beckoning. The girl grips your arm, her eyes wide with terror and determination. This is the moment where choice becomes destiny. You step forward together, feeling the pull of the current, the weight of every soul trapped by the mug's curse. Memories flood your mind, the laughter and tears, the battles won and lost, the friends betrayed and the loves forgotten. The mug is more than a place. It is a vessel for all these stories, a living testament to the price of freedom. As you cross the threshold into the swirling depths, a sudden clarity dawns. The mug's power lies not in the trap, but in the surrender. Only by embracing the tide can one hope to turn it. The girl's hand tightens on yours, grounding you as the currents pull you forward. You know the path ahead is perilous, the outcome uncertain, but together you dive into the unknown, riding the waves of fate toward whatever freedom or damnation awaits. The swirling depths envelop you both in their cold embrace, the currents tugging relentlessly at your limbs and thoughts. The world above, the tavern, the whispers, the ghosts, fades into a distant echo, replaced by the endless expanse of water, dark and infinite. Time loses meaning here. Seconds stretch and collapse as memories flood your mind with relentless intensity. Faces, names, places, each a thread in the tangled web woven by the siren's mug. You feel the girl's grip tighten on your hand, a silent reminder that you are not alone in this descent. Together, you navigate the shifting tides, the pull of the past, and the weight of the unknown pressing against your spirit. The water around you glows faintly, bioluminescent fragments illuminating ancient wreckage and sunken dreams. Here lies the accumulated sorrow of every lost soul claimed by the tavern's curse, a sea of regrets too vast to count. As you swim deeper, the current slows, and you find yourself before a massive, barnacle-encrusted door set into the stone wall of an underwater cavern. It is covered in intricate carvings, serpents entwined with anchors, skulls adorned with coral, and cryptic runes pulsing with faint energy. This is no ordinary door. It is the gateway to the heart of the mug's power. The girl looks to you, eyes wide but resolute. There is no turning back now. You reach out, tracing the ancient symbols, feeling the vibrations of magic coursing beneath your fingertips. The door groans, opening slowly to reveal a chamber bathed in ethereal light. Inside lies a relic, an ornate, salt-encrusted chalice resting atop a pedestal carved from coral and bone. You understand instinctively this chalice is the source of the mug's curse and its key to salvation. But the price to claim it will be steep. The waters ripple as ghostly figures emerge. Former captains, betrayed lovers, cursed souls, all silent witnesses to your trial. Steeling yourself, you step forward into the chamber, ready to face the final reckoning beneath the Siren's mug. The chamber feels alive, an ancient heartbeat resonating through the salt-crusted walls as you approach the chalice. The ghostly figures surrounding it watch silently, their hollow eyes reflecting 1,000 forgotten sorrows. Their presence is neither hostile nor welcoming. They are the eternal witnesses, bound by fate to the mug and its curse. You reach out, fingers trembling, and lift the chalice. Its surface is cold and rough, etched with symbols that pulse faintly beneath your touch. The water inside shimmers like liquid starlight, alive with a power both beautiful and terrible. The girl's gaze is fixed on you, a mixture of hope and fear mirrored in her eyes. A voice echoes through the chamber, not spoken but felt, a ripple of emotion that washes over you both. The mug's will is clear. To break its hold, you must drink and accept the price. The chalice is a vessel of both freedom and bondage, a paradox forged from the sea's depths. You lift the chalice to your lips, the liquid's cold bite searing through you like a winter storm. Memories flood back. Every choice, every betrayal, every moment that led you here. The ghosts around you sigh, their forms flickering like candle flames in a breeze, their burden lightened by your courage. The girl follows, drinking beside you. Together you feel the tide shift, the chains loosen, the curse falter. But the mug is cunning, its hunger endless. It offers release, yes, but only to those willing to carry its legacy forward. As the chalice empties, the chamber dissolves into swirling currents, carrying you both back toward the tavern's threshold. You know this is not an end, but a beginning. The price of survival is eternal vigilance. The Siren's mug waits, patient as ever, ready to claim its next victims. The currents carry you back through the winding tunnels, the air growing warmer and thicker as the tavern's familiar scents seep into your senses once again. The glow from the lanterns flickers, casting shifting shadows on damp walls as the boundaries between past and present blur. You and the girl stumble into the main chamber, breathless and forever changed. The patrons turn their heads as if sensing the transformation, some with curiosity, others with quiet acknowledgement. The mug recognizes those who have faced its depths and returned. The bartender, her eyes sharper than before, meets your gaze with a knowing smile. She pours 2 tankards, thick, dark liquids swirling within, and slides them across the bar. You accept the drink, the taste bittersweet and heavy with meaning. The tavern hums with life, but beneath the laughter and clinking mugs lies a tension, a whispered understanding that the balance has shifted. The girl takes her seat beside you, her hands steady now, resolve hardening beneath a veil of uncertainty. She is no longer a frightened newcomer, but a keeper of the mug's secrets, bound by the same unbreakable threads that ensnared you. Together, you become part of the tavern's living story, a chapter in the endless saga of souls who have danced on the edge of freedom and damnation. As the night deepens, you watch the door, knowing that the Siren's mug will soon welcome its next wanderer. The cycle continues, unbroken and eternal. You take a final sip, feeling the weight of history settle around you like a shroud. In the Siren's mug, no one truly leaves. They only change. The tavern breathes around you, a living, breathing entity stitched together from the breaths and blood of countless souls. The laughter feels both distant and immediate, like echoes from a dream you can't quite grasp, but know you've lived before. You watch the girl closely, noticing the subtle changes, the way she moves with a newfound confidence, the steadiness in her eyes, the quiet knowledge lurking beneath her guarded smile. She has crossed a threshold, leaving behind the innocence of a newcomer and stepping fully into the tangled web the mug weaves. Around you, the patrons carry on, their conversations weaving a tapestry of whispered rumors and half-forgotten legends. Some speak of ships lost to storms that never end, others of deals struck in shadows, paid in coin or blood. The barmaid moves with practiced grace, her hands steady as she pours drink after drink, each one a potion brewed with memory and intent. The parrot squawks intermittently, its cries sharp reminders of the stories held captive within these walls. You feel the weight of your place here settling deeper, a mantle heavy but undeniable. The mug does not discriminate. It chooses its captains and servants alike. Each soul is a thread in its grand design, spun tight with promises, curses, and the endless ebb and flow of fate. The girl raises her glass to you, a silent toast to survival, to the ties that bind, and to the uncertain horizon ahead. Outside, the sea whispers against the dock, endless and indifferent. Inside, the Siren's mug waits, patient as ever, ready to pull another lost soul into its depths. You sip your drink slowly, the taste familiar and strange, a bittersweet blend of brine and shadow. Tonight the tavern is alive, and so are you. The night deepens, thick with smoke and the weight of unspoken histories. The tavern pulses like a heart, steady and relentless, its rhythms syncing with the murmurs of those who linger within. The girl sits beside you, her gaze drifting to the shadowed corners where whispered deals and furtive glances collide. Every face here is a story, tales of triumph and tragedy carved into weathered skin, stitched with scars and secrets. You see reflections of your own past in their eyes and in hers. The barmaid moves through the crowd with quiet authority, her presence a steady anchor amidst the chaos. She passes by without a word, but her glance holds volumes, warnings, promises, and the kind of understanding born from years entwined with the mug's relentless hunger. Her hands are steady as she pours drinks laced with memories, the amber liquid swirling like liquid fire in the dim light. Laughter erupts suddenly, a sharp, brittle sound that cuts through the murmurs. A brawl ignites near the hearth, fueled by old grudges and fresh wounds. Chairs crash, voices rise, and the air thickens with the raw scent of sweat and danger. You and the girl watch, the tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. It's a dance you've witnessed too many times, the thin line between camaraderie and carnage, survival and surrender. In the midst of the chaos, the door creaks open once more, and new footsteps cross the threshold. The tavern shifts, welcoming its next player into the never-ending game. You take a slow sip of your drink, the taste a bitter reminder that in the Siren's mug, no one ever truly wins. But sometimes the price of staying alive is simply outlasting the storm. The new arrival steps inside, shoulders hunched against the cold night air, eyes darting uncertainly as the tavern's murmur folds around them like a tightening noose. The scent of salt, smoke, and stale ale clings to every surface, but this newcomer's unease cuts through it all, a sharp contrast to the hardened regulars who regard them with a mixture of suspicion and resigned amusement. The girl watches closely, her posture stiff with memories of her own first night, a night where every glance felt like a test, every word a potential trap. The barmaid meets the newcomer's gaze with the same unreadable expression she's worn for decades, an inscrutable mask forged in the fires of countless stories. She slides a dark mug across the counter, a welcome, a warning, an initiation. The newcomer hesitates, then takes the drink. The bitter burn of the liquid awakening every nerve and shadowed thought. The room shifts, the edges of reality blurring, and for a moment, the newcomer's face reflects not hope, but a flicker of something darker, a recognition that they have stepped beyond the threshold of safety. You and the girl exchange a knowing glance. The cycle continues. The mug claims its victims not with chains or blades, but with the slow, inexorable pull of fate and the promises whispered in the dark. Tonight, the tavern breathes in a new story, weaving it into the endless tapestry of the damned. The fire flickers, casting long shadows that seem to reach for the newcomer as they settle in. The game begins anew, and you watch, ever watchful, as the Siren's mug swallows another soul into its depths. The newcomer's tentative steps carry them deeper into the tavern's shadows, the low murmur of voices wrapping around them like thick fog. Every eye in the room flickers toward this fresh presence, a ripple in the stagnant water, a crack in the weathered wood. You watch the girl's expression tighten. She knows this dance well, the slow, inexorable tightening of the mug's grip on those who wander too close. The newcomer tries to blend, but the mug has a way of marking those it desires. A careless glance here, a too loud laugh there, each small misstep adding invisible chains. The barmaid's gaze lingers longer than polite, her fingers tightening around a rag as she eyes the newcomer with a silent, unyielding assessment. The mug's hunger is patient but relentless. It knows how to wait. In the corner, a group of weathered pirates exchanges knowing looks, their voices low but sharp with warning. Tales of those swallowed whole, who drank deeply and vanished into the tides. The newcomer shivers, catching fragments of curses whispered across tables. This place isn't a haven. It's a crucible where souls are forged or broken. The girl leans close to you, voice barely a whisper. "They don't leave," she says. "Not really." You nod, the truth settling like salt in your blood. The tavern's walls have ears, and its floors have eyes. Every shadow hides a story. Every drink carries a secret. The mug does not forget. It waits for its next tide to pull under. You raise your tankard slowly, a silent toast to survival and the battles yet to come. The newcomer takes a seat, unaware that the mug has already begun its work. The newcomer settles into their seat, the worn wood creaking beneath them, and the tavern seems to close in tighter with every breath they take. The air is thick with the scents of brine, smoke, and something older, something almost alive, pulsing in rhythm with the low murmur of voices and the distant crashing of waves against the harbor. You watch as they take a tentative sip from the dark mug the barmaid slid before them, their fingers trembling slightly, betraying the fragile hope beneath their fear. Around them, the room breathes and shifts, a living organism composed of stories, secrets, and unspoken threats. The patrons eye the newcomer with a mix of curiosity and cold calculation, silent assessments of strength, weakness, and potential value. The girl beside you whispers, "They don't know what's coming." None of them do at first. Her voice carries the weight of hard-earned wisdom, shaped by nights spent navigating the tavern's treacherous currents. Suddenly, a clatter erupts near the hearth, a dropped mug, a shouted insult, the spark of a fight igniting like tinder. The tavern erupts into motion, a storm of fists, curses, and desperate laughter. You feel the mug's presence intensify, feeding off the chaos, growing stronger with each pulse of adrenaline and spilled drink. The newcomer flinches, their eyes wide, caught between awe and terror. As the brawl spirals, you realize that surviving here isn't just about strength. It's about knowing when to strike, when to surrender, and when to disappear into the shadows. The mug's game is long, its rules cruel, and its prize eternal. You take a slow sip, the bitter warmth a reminder that in this place, every night is a battle, and every dawn a victory hard won. The brawl surges through the tavern like a tempest unleashed. Fists fly, and chairs crash against battered tables, shouts and curses echoing off the warped beams. The floorboards tremble beneath the chaos, slick with spilled ale and sweat, a treacherous terrain where one wrong step means more than just a bruised ego. The newcomers are swept into the melee, faces flushed with fear and fury, learning quickly the harsh language of the Siren's mug. Amidst the chaos, the girl moves with surprising agility, ducking and weaving between combatants. She's no longer the timid soul who first crossed the threshold, but a survivor hardened by the tavern's relentless demands. You watch, wary and alert, knowing that every fight here isn't just about dominance, but survival. The mug thrives on such moments, its hunger fed by the blood spilled and the bonds forged in violence. As the melee crescendos, the barmaid steps forward, voice sharp and commanding. Her presence cuts through the noise like a blade, and the tavern slowly falls into a tense silence. Eyes flicker to her as she moves through the crowd, collecting broken mugs and calming tempers with a practiced hand. The brawl subsides, leaving behind bruises and grudges simmering beneath forced smiles. You catch the newcomer's eye. Their expression is a mixture of relief and realization. This place is no ordinary tavern. It is a crucible where innocence is burned away, leaving only the hardened, the cunning, and the desperate. You raise your tankard in a silent toast, a grim acknowledgement of the journey ahead. In the Siren's mug, the fight never truly ends. It only changes shape. The aftermath of the brawl settles like a thick fog, heavy and slow-moving. The air is charged with tension and the sharp tang of spilled ale and sweat. You move carefully through the crowd, noting the fresh bruises and bleeding noses, the wary glances exchanged like unspoken threats. The tavern hums with subdued energy, the quiet before the next storm. The newcomer sits stiffly, eyes darting around, absorbing the brutal lesson etched into every scar and whispered warning. The barmaid wipes down the counters with slow, deliberate strokes, her gaze never lingering too long on any one patron. Her movements are precise, honed by years of managing the mug's restless inhabitants. You recognize the delicate balance she maintains, a thin line between order and chaos, survival and surrender. She knows every secret whispered beneath these rafters and every debt etched into the walls. Outside, the storm rages, rain lashing against the windows like the drums of war. Inside, the tavern becomes a refuge and a prison, a place where the past and present collide. You hear stories from the corners, tales of betrayals and lost ships, of oaths broken and vengeance sought. Each story is a thread in the mug's vast tapestry, binding its patrons in a web of fate and fear. You take a long drink, feeling the burn settle deep. The newcomer looks to you, seeking guidance, and you offer a nod, a silent promise that, while the path is treacherous, they are not alone. In the Siren's mug, every soul is both prisoner and participant in a story that never ends. The night wears on, thick with smoke and shadows, as the tavern settles into a quieter rhythm. The once furious brawl has left a residue of tension that clings to the air like salt on skin. The newcomer, now more aware of the mug's merciless nature, leans back against the battered wood of their seat, eyes heavy but alert. Around them, stories weave like smoke, tales of greed, loss, and fleeting camaraderie, all underlined by a silent understanding. Here, survival is a game with ever-shifting rules. You watch as the barmaid moves through the crowd, her steps deliberate and sure. There is an unspoken respect between her and the regulars, forged in countless nights like this one. Her eyes flick to the newcomer briefly, a flicker of recognition, or perhaps a warning. This place changes people. It tests them in ways no sword or storm could. And not all who enter emerge whole. The girl beside you sighs softly, her gaze fixed on the flickering hearth. The mug has a way of marking you, she murmurs. It's not just the stories or the scars. It's the weight you carry after. Her words hang in the air, heavy with truth. You know what she means, the lingering sense of being trapped, even when free, caught in the tavern's invisible net. A sudden silence falls as the door swings open again, the cold night air rushing in like a breath held too long. New footsteps echo across the floor, drawing every eye. The cycle continues, unbroken and inevitable. You raise your glass once more, a silent toast to those who've come before and those who will follow. In the Siren's mug, the tides never cease, and the stories never end. The newcomer stiffens as the door swings wide, admitting another figure whose presence shifts the atmosphere like a sudden gust of wind. The tavern's usual murmur quiets, the low hum replaced by sharp, attentive silence. Eyes turn slowly, measuring the newcomer with a mix of skepticism and wary curiosity. The newcomer's clothes are worn but clean, their expression a blend of hope and dread, as though stepping into the Siren's mug is stepping onto a stage they did not audition for. You and the girl exchange a glance. This ritual of arrival has played out countless times, each new face a fresh thread woven into the mug's endless tapestry. The barmaid's gaze sharpens, her movements graceful yet guarded as she approaches the door, silently deciding how this new soul will be received. The air thickens with anticipation and the heavy scent of salt and spilt rum. The newcomer makes their way to the bar, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down. They order a drink, the amber liquid sliding across the counter like a test they must pass. The first sip is taken with trembling hands, the bitter warmth igniting a fire that spreads through their veins and awakens memories, both distant and painful. The tavern breathes around them, alive, watchful, patient. You feel the familiar pull of the mug's invisible chains tighten as the newcomer settles into the shadowed crowd. Their journey has only just begun, and the night stretches ahead, full of peril, promise, and the relentless tide of fate. The newcomer's eyes dart nervously across the room, scanning faces that seem etched by years of hardship and secrets. Each glance feels like a silent challenge, a test to measure strength and resolve. The tavern's shadows twist and deepen, swallowing whispers and casting doubt like a shroud. You watch as the girl beside you tenses, her fingers tightening around her mug, a subtle reminder that here, vigilance is survival. The barmaid approaches silently, her footsteps muffled against the worn floorboards. She leans close to the newcomer, offering a small, cryptic smile, part invitation, part warning. "Welcome to the Siren's mug," she murmurs, voice roughened by years spent amidst salt and sorrow. The newcomer swallows hard, but nods, their fate sealed the moment they cross the threshold. From a distant corner, a fiddle begins to play, a haunting melody that weaves through the tavern like a siren's call. The patrons fall into a hushed reverence, their eyes reflecting stories too dark for daylight. The girl whispers, "That song, it tells of those lost to the tide and those still fighting to hold on." The newcomer listens, captivated and frightened, caught in the mug's web. As the night deepens, the newcomer realizes that the Siren's mug is more than a tavern. It is a crucible, a place where the past and present collide, where every choice carries weight, and where freedom is a fleeting dream held just beyond reach. You raise your glass to them, a silent toast to endurance, knowing the path ahead is treacherous but unavoidable. The haunting melody from the fiddle fades into the background, replaced by the low murmur of whispered deals and broken promises. The newcomer sits stiffly, their senses heightened, drinking in every nuance of the tavern's shifting atmosphere. Around them, the patrons move with purpose, some plotting, some mourning, all bound by the mug's relentless gravity. The girl leans in, voice barely audible over the din. Every face here carries a story. Some are scars, some are secrets, but all are chains. You observe as the newcomer's eyes meet those of a man across the room, a grizzled figure with a crooked smile and a gaze sharp as a cutlass. There is recognition there, unspoken yet unmistakable, as if the tides of fate have drawn them together. The newcomer swallows hard, sensing that alliances here are forged in fire and blood, and betrayals lurk behind every handshake. The barmaid returns, sliding a worn ledger across the counter. Its pages are filled with names, some crossed out, others circled in ominous red. She points to the newcomer's name, a silent declaration that their story is now entwined with the mug's eternal ledger. The weight of that moment presses down, a reminder that here, debts are more than currency. They are the price of survival. As the night stretches on, the newcomer realizes that the Siren's mug is not just a place, but a living, breathing force. One that shapes destinies, demands sacrifices, and never forgets a face. You raise your mug again, a solemn toast to the unknown journey ahead. The newcomer's gaze flickers nervously as the weight of the ledger settles over them like a storm cloud. Every name etched in ink feels like a silent verdict, proof that in this place, history is written not with quills but with blood and broken promises. You watch as they trace the lines with a trembling finger, realizing that their own story has been inked without consent, binding them to the Siren's mug's relentless tide. The tavern's murmur shifts, conversations dipping into hushed tones as if the walls themselves hold their breath. The girl leans closer, whispering, "This place remembers everything, the debts, the sins, the bargains made in the dark." Her words linger, heavy with truth and warning. Around you, patrons nod in grim acknowledgement, each bearing scars of past deals and forgotten pacts. A sudden clatter breaks the silence, a dropped mug, a shouted insult, the spark of a new conflict. The tension snaps, releasing a surge of violence that spills through the room like wildfire. You feel the mug's hunger intensify, feeding off the chaos, the desperation, the fragile threads of trust unraveling. The newcomer steels themselves, rising to face the storm. Here, in the heart of the Siren's mug, survival demands more than strength. It requires cunning, resilience, and the unyielding will to endure. You raise your tankard in silent solidarity, knowing that the night is far from over and the true trials are only beginning. The clash of bodies and voices fills the tavern, a cacophony fueled by old grudges and fresh wounds. The newcomer moves cautiously through the fray, their eyes sharp and alert, muscles coiled for sudden flight or fight. Around them, the air thickens with sweat and the bitter scent of spilt rum, the very walls seeming to pulse with the mug's insatiable hunger for turmoil. Each fight is more than mere violence. It's a ritual, a reminder of the precarious balance between life and death here. You watch as the girl deftly navigates the chaos, her every step measured, her gaze scanning for threats hidden in the shadows. She has become a master of this unforgiving dance, shaped by nights of blood and betrayal. The newcomer follows her lead, learning the unwritten rules, the moments to hold back, the moments to strike, and the moments to disappear into the smoky haze. The barmaid stands behind the counter, her expression unreadable but resolute. She watches the scene unfold with the detached vigilance of someone who knows that the tavern's survival depends on these battles, as brutal as they are necessary. A broken chair is swept aside, and the music begins again. A low, haunting tune that weaves through the clamor like a warning and a lullaby. As the fight subsides, the newcomer exhales, the taste of blood and fear mingling with the bitter warmth of their drink. The Siren's mug has claimed another night, and with it, another soul drawn deeper into its tangled web. You raise your glass silently, knowing the dawn will bring no peace, only the relentless pull of the tide. The tavern's rhythm slows as the fight fades into murmurs and cautious glances. The newcomer wipes a trickle of blood from their lip, their breath uneven, mind racing with the raw lessons learned in the storm's eye. Around them, the patrons nurse wounds both visible and hidden, physical scars mingling with the weight of choices made under pressure and fear. The mug's hunger abates momentarily, but never fully disappears. It simmers beneath the surface, waiting to reignite. You notice the girl's steady presence, her calm amid chaos, a beacon for those still finding their footing. She offers a nod, a gesture that says, "You've made it through this night." But the unspoken truth lingers. Surviving one battle is no guarantee against the next. The Siren's mug is a crucible of endless tests, and the toll is measured in more than just bruises. The barmaid returns to the counter, placing a fresh drink before the newcomer, a dark, potent concoction with an edge that promises both solace and peril. She doesn't speak, but her eyes convey the same message she's given countless others. This place doesn't forgive easily. Each sip is a pact, a step deeper into the tavern's shadowed legacy. Outside, the sea roars against the docks, relentless and indifferent. Inside, the Siren's mug waits, patient as ever, ready to weave the next thread in its endless tapestry. You raise your glass once more, a silent vow to face whatever tides come next. The candlelight flickers low, casting elongated shadows that twist and sway against the tavern's weathered walls. The newcomer sits quietly now, the adrenaline of the fight ebbing away, replaced by a creeping awareness of the mug's unyielding grip. Around them the murmurs resume, stories rising like smoke, tales of lost ships, broken oaths, and souls forever tethered to the tavern's dark embrace. The weight of those histories presses in, reminding all who listen that here, every moment is a negotiation with fate. You observe the girl's gaze as it drifts to the far corner where the black table sits, still dust-covered and ominous. The captain's table, unclaimed, yet ever present, a silent challenge to those who dare to dream of command. The barmaid catches your eye briefly, a flicker of warning passing between you. Dreams here are fragile things, often shattered by the harsh tides of reality. The newcomer's fingers tighten around their mug, knuckles whitening. They are no longer a stranger, but a participant in a ritual as old as the sea itself. The mug does not tolerate weakness, but it respects resolve. You raise your glass slowly, the clink echoing softly as a quiet salute to those who have survived, and to those still lost beneath the waves. Outside, the night deepens, the sea whispering secrets to the shore. Inside, the siren's mug waits patiently, its hunger eternal, its stories unending. The tavern's atmosphere thickens with an almost tangible weight as the night winds on, the chatter slowing into a low, constant hum that fills every corner with quiet anticipation. The newcomer sits forward, their posture taut with a mixture of exhaustion and alertness, eyes flicking from one shadowed figure to another. Around them, the regulars move with practiced ease, their conversations laced with coded warnings and half-spoken truths. The siren's mug is a crucible where loyalty is fragile and alliances shift like the tides. You notice the barmaid's steady presence behind the counter, a silent sentinel watching over the ever-turning wheel of fates inside these walls. Her eyes meet yours briefly, a momentary exchange loaded with unspoken understanding. She's seen countless souls come and go, each leaving behind fragments of their story etched into the wood and whispered in the smoke. The girl leans in, her voice low and steady. This place doesn't just trap you in its walls, it traps you in its stories, and some stories never end. Her words hang heavy in the stale air as a new figure crosses the threshold, the door groaning under the weight of history and secrets. The newcomer straightens, ready to face whatever tides the mug has yet to reveal. You raise your glass in quiet solidarity, knowing the night is far from over, and the siren's mug is patient, but relentless. The arrival of the new figure brings a fresh wave of tension that ripples through the tavern's thickened air. Eyes narrow, conversations hush, and the weight of countless unspoken warnings settles over the room like a heavy fog. The newcomer moves cautiously, each step measured and deliberate, as if aware that every footfall echoes through the mug's tangled web of fate. The girl watches silently, her expression unreadable, a mixture of sympathy and grim acceptance. The barmaid's hands are steady as she slides a dark mug across the counter, a ritual repeated countless times before. The newcomer's fingers wrap around it, and the first sip ignites a slow, burning fire, a bitter reminder that here, every drink carries a price. Around them, the patrons exchange glances filled with stories only they can decipher, their faces etched with the scars of battles won and lost in shadows. You feel the pull of the mug's invisible chains tighten around the newcomer, a silent invitation and an unyielding demand. The tavern breathes with ancient rhythms, breath, heartbeat, tide, pulling all who enter deeper into its depths. You raise your glass slowly, a quiet toast to endurance and the unending dance with fate. The newcomer's tentative steps carry them deeper into the dim recesses of the tavern, where shadows cling like whispers and every corner holds a secret. Their eyes dart nervously, catching fleeting glimpses of faces marked by hardship and haunted by memories too heavy to carry alone. The air is thick with the scent of salt, smoke, and old regrets, a haunting perfume that binds every soul within the siren's mug. You watch as the girl beside you stiffens, her gaze sharpening with the practiced vigilance of one who has danced this perilous dance before. She leans in, voice low and cautious. The mug doesn't just trap bodies, it ensnares spirits. Her words resonate with the truth you've learned in the quiet hours between chaos and calm. Across the room, a group gathers near the hearth, their conversations hushed but charged with tension. Names are whispered, of lost voyages, broken oaths, and debts paid in blood. The newcomer listens, absorbing the weight of stories that ripple through the tavern like restless tides. You raise your glass in a silent toast to those who have survived, to those who have fallen, and to the journey that lies ahead. The quiet tension in the tavern thickens as the newcomer settles deeper into the shadows, their presence becoming a part of the ever-shifting tapestry woven by countless lost souls. Around them, the murmur of voices rises and falls like the relentless tide, each story adding weight to the mug's endless hunger. You see the girl's eyes flicker with a mix of caution and sorrow. She knows all too well the cost of becoming part of this place. The barmaid moves with practiced ease, her hands steady as she pours another drink, a dark, potent brew that seems to carry the essence of the sea itself. The newcomer's fingers close tightly around the mug, their gaze distant yet watchful. The tavern's walls seem to pulse with hidden life, whispering secrets in languages older than the ships that once sailed these waters. You lean back, the warmth of your own drink grounding you amidst the swirling currents of fear and fate. The Siren's mug is more than a refuge. It's a labyrinth of shadows and choices, where every step could lead to salvation or doom. As the night deepens, you know the final chapter is near, and with it, the truth the tavern has long kept hidden. The final hours of the night unfold with an eerie stillness that blankets the Siren's mug. The once raucous tavern has quieted to a low murmur, as if the very walls are holding their breath. The newcomer sits at the edge of the bar, fingers wrapped tightly around the last warm sip of their drink, eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight and a newfound understanding. The journey through the mug's depths has been harrowing, each moment a test of will, and now they stand on the threshold between survival and surrender. You watch as the girl rises silently, her gaze lingering on the newcomer with a mix of respect and melancholy. "You've made it," she whispers. But the mug never truly lets go. It's not just a place, it's a fate. Her words hang heavy in the air, a final reminder that the tavern's grip extends far beyond these walls, into the very marrow of those it claims. The barmaid approaches, her expression softer now, yet still edged with the steel of countless battles fought in shadows. She places a weathered coin on the counter, a symbol of passage, a token of belonging. The newcomer reaches out, accepting it with steady hands, their path forever entwined with the Siren's mug. Outside, the first light of dawn breaks over the restless sea, washing away the night's shadows, but not the memories etched deep within. You raise your glass one last time, a silent toast to endings and beginnings, to stories written in salt and blood, and to the eternal tides that carry them all home.